The envelope stopped against the centerpiece. My son's hand stayed suspended, fingers still curled around the silk ribbon he'd spent 20 minutes tying. 35 guests. String lights draped across the patio. A hand-painted banner that read asterisk cheers to 30 years, Dad asterisk. And my father, without looking at my son, without lowering his voice, said it clear enough for the caterers to pause. Asterisk, you've always been the quiet one, Clara. Don't turn this into a performance. Asterisk, my mother didn't reach for it. She just smoothed her dress and said, asterisk, we don't need your pity, take it and step back. Asterisk, I didn't flinch. I didn't argue. I just watched the ivory envelope slide 2 inches across the linen table, my son's hand-drawn card catching on a wine glass stem. Inside was a manila folder. Inside that folder was the only thing standing between their home and a bank auction in 24 days. And they had just pushed it away like an unwanted brochure. I picked up my son. He pressed his face into my shoulder and didn't make a sound. I turned, walked past the roasted lamb and the glass bottles and the relatives who had watched me grow up and never once asked if I was all right. The gravel crunched under my shoes. The night air felt clean. I buckled him in, started the car and drove. I didn't look back. 4 days later, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. 9 calls from my mother, 7 from my father, 2 from my sister, 1 from my aunt. I let them all go to voicemail, not out of cruelty, out of clarity. I finally understood the difference between love and leverage, and I was done paying for a seat at a table that was never set for me. But let me take you back to the morning I decided to wrap a debt in paper. I stood in my kitchen at 5:52 a.m., 3 weeks before my father's retirement dinner, with a roll of ivory paper, a wax seal, and a manila folder that looked thinner than it felt. My son Julian sat at the counter with a length of silk ribbon between his teeth, trying to twist it into a bow. He was 7. He believed tension could be negotiated into symmetry. The bow came out uneven. He grinned like he'd solved a puzzle. Asterisk, it's perfect. Asterisk, I told him. He'd also folded a card the night before, a crooked tree, a stick-figure house. Happy retirement, Grandpa, in block letters that leaned hard to the right. He tucked it under the ribbon himself. I caught my reflection in the toaster. Cardigan, hair in a low clip, a financial risk analyst who reviewed corporate balance sheets without blinking. And yet, my hands were damp. Some part of me, the part I still hadn't retired, believed this would finally balance the ledger. 30 years of marriage, their daughter and grandson at the table, a gift that could genuinely anchor them though they didn't know they were already sinking. I pressed the lid down. Julian smoothed the ribbon with his thumb. Asterisk, Mom, do you think they'll smile? Asterisk, I smiled at him. Asterisk, maybe, baby. Asterisk, the paperwork wasn't the hard part. The hard part was still wanting to be chosen. Growing up in the Mercer house, the hierarchy was absolute. Chloe came first. I came second if there was room. My sister was 2 years older, and from day one my parents treated her like a blueprint they'd finally gotten right. Dance recitals with matching tights, honor roll magnets on the fridge, birthday parties with coordinated themes. Then there was me. I was the afterthought my mother mentioned with a polite smile. She told me once, folding laundry on a Sunday evening like she was reading a weather report. Asterisk, you were never the plan, Clara. I don't say it to wound you. I say it because it's true. Asterisk, I was 9. I remember the detergent bottle she was holding. Blue cap, faded label. She never locked me out. She never raised her voice. She just had this quiet, steady way of making me feel like I was borrowing space that had already been allocated. Chloe got the recitals. I got a participation ribbon and a hug that lasted half a second. My father, Arthur, loved me the way men of his generation loved their backup plans. Politely, consistently, without ever stepping into the room when I needed a witness. By the time I left for college on a work-study grant and 2 campus jobs, I'd already learned the house rule. Chloe was the exhibit. I was the archive. I didn't resent them for it. I just grew tired. At 24, I had Julian. His father lasted long enough to hear the word asterisk pregnant asterisk and then discovered a sudden passion for relocating overseas. My parents' reaction was a joint voicemail. Asterisk another detour. Asterisk my mother said. Asterisk we can't cover childcare. Asterisk my father added. I knew perfectly. I worked days tracking vendor audits and compliance logs. Nights I studied for my certification. Julian slept in a crib beside my flashcards. Some months I ate instant oats so he could have the fortified formula the pediatrician recommended. 2 years, 1 failed exam, 1 pass. By 28, I was a certified risk analyst. By 30, I was overseeing corporate portfolios worth more than my parents' combined retirement accounts. I learned to read a liability clause better than I could read my own mother's silence. But here's the thing about building yourself from zero. You get good at carrying load. Too good, I was the coworker who stayed late, the friend who answered at midnight, the daughter who still mailed anniversary cards to a woman who filed them in a drawer and never said thank you. Overfunctioning was my default. If there was a fire, I grabbed the hose, even when the people inside had handed me the matches. The invitation arrived in March. Cream card stock, gold embossed. Asterisk Arthur and Alina Mercer celebrate 30 years of partnership and Arthur's retirement. Asterisk I stared at it for 2 days. Julian found it on the counter and lit up. Asterisk we're going to Grandpa's big party. Asterisk he said it the way kids talk about theme parks. Capital letters, exclamation points. Wide open belief that this time would be different. Julian wanted grandparents. He wanted the cookies and the lap and the bedtime stories. He didn't know the math. He just knew he was missing something. I almost threw the invitation away, but I'd just come into possession of something that could change everything between us. A gift so specific, so necessary to their survival, that even my mother would have to look up. I couldn't tell Julian what it was. I couldn't explain the Lien filings or the defaulted personal guarantee or the fact that their home was 30 days from being auctioned to cover unpaid business debts. He was 7. He knew the envelope had a silk ribbon, a card he drew, and something important inside. Asterisk we're going. Asterisk I told him. Asterisk and we're bringing the most important present they'll ever receive. Asterisk he hugged me so hard my ribs ached. I checked the RSVP for 2, wrote our names, dropped it in the mail before I could change my mind. Hope is a strange tax. You keep paying it even when the returns are garbage. A week before the party, my cousin Jenna called to warn me. Asterisk your Aunt Carol's been talking again. Asterisk according to the family grapevine, I was the ungrateful daughter who refused to let them see their grandson. I was cold, selfish, damaged. The truth was simpler. Every time I'd brought Julian to visit, my mother treated him like a suspicious package, inspected him, found something wrong, moved on. Asterisk Julian's hair is messy. Julian talks too much. Julian reminds me of you. Asterisk the last visit. She'd looked at him arranging wooden blocks on the coffee table and said, Asterisk he's got your father's chin, the wrong one. Asterisk meaning the boyfriend, the other mistake. I stopped visiting, not to punish them, to protect my kid, but Aunt Carol's version played better at Bible study. Poor Alina weeping, Arthur stoic and heartbroken, the congregation shaking their heads at the heartless daughter. Julian heard fragments. One night, brushing his teeth, foam around his mouth. Asterisk Mom, will Grandma like me this time? Asterisk I wiped his chin. Asterisk Grandma's complicated sweetheart. Asterisk but will she like the present? Asterisk she'd be crazy not to. Asterisk he nodded. He trusted me the way I used to trust my mother, completely, without auditing the books. I carried that weight all the way to the car the morning of the party. 3 weeks before the invitation, my father had called me, unusual. Arthur Mercer communicated through my mother like nations use ambassadors. Direct calls happened roughly as often as solar eclipses. Asterisk Clara. Asterisk his voice was rough at the edges. Asterisk how's the market out there? Asterisk I was reviewing a vendor agreement. Asterisk the market's fine, Dad, why? Asterisk just curious. Your mother watches those flipping shows. Asterisk he paused so long I checked if we disconnected. Asterisk Dad, what's a house like ours worth these days? Ballpark. Asterisk I gave him a number, he made a sound, something between acknowledgement and pain. Asterisk everything okay with the house? Asterisk fine, your mother's calling me for dinner, you take care. Asterisk he hung up. I sat there, phone warm against my ear, trying to decode it. My father didn't ask about real estate. I filed it under weird but harmless and went back to work. 2 days later, a file landed on my desk that made my hands go still. Every Tuesday my firm pulled the weekly municipal lien docket from the county recorder. Routine. I skimmed it between coffee and my first meeting. Most were strangers' problems. That Tuesday, one address punched me in the sternum. Asterisk 412 Willow Creek Lane. Asterisk my parents' house. The house where Chloe got matching plates and I got grocery store cake. The house where my grandmother braided my hair every morning. The only person who ever made me feel like I belonged. I read the address 3 times. Pulled the full notice of contractor Lien. There it was, printed on county letterhead. A foreclosure date counting down. A default amount that made my stomach drop. A lender I recognized, they were losing the house. Not slowly, not theoretically. 4 weeks. And whoever showed up at the county steps with the highest bid would own it. Every room, every memory, every square foot of the backyard where my grandmother planted magnolias that still bloomed every spring. My father's call snapped into focus. He hadn't been curious, he'd been terrified. I closed my office door, pulled the lender file, started reading. I didn't call my parents. They hadn't called me, not to ask for help, not to warn me. They'd rather lose the house than call the afterthought. I read the file twice. The numbers don't lie the way people do. 10 months earlier, they'd co-signed a personal guarantee for Chloe's boutique expansion. The amount, $128,000. The house had been paid off for years, free and clear, their only solid asset heading into retirement. They'd backed every dollar of equity. Chloe's boutique took on a second location. Inventory went unpaid. Landlord filed for breach. Chloe dissolved the LLC quietly, deleted Instagram, never repaid a cent. The guarantee fell to my parents. Their combined monthly obligation was more than double their retirement income. They'd made 3 payments, missed 2. The county filed the Lien notice in January. Sale date, March 18th. $128,000 in equity torched. 30 years of mortgage payments gone. The math was ugly and final. Where had the money gone? Not to the house. Not to medical bills. The guarantee disbursement went out in a single lump sum 10 months ago to a business account I didn't recognize. I pulled public filings, cross-referenced the date, there it was. Asterisk Chloe & Co., Retail LLC asterisk. My sister's boutique. The one she'd bragged about for 6 months before the post stopped. The one my mother called asterisk Chloe's next chapter asterisk at Thanksgiving. The one nobody mentioned since. They'd bet the house on Chloe. Literally, put up every cent of equity on the Golden Child's dream storefront, and the dream had burned down, and they'd told me nothing. I closed the file, opened it, closed it. Then I stared at the county clerk's contact information for 10 minutes. Overresponsibility is a reflex. You see the fire, you grab the hose, even when the people inside never handed you a key. I didn't sleep. Part of me said, asterisk walk away. Asterisk they didn't ask you, they don't want you. They've spent 28 years making it clear you're the line item they'd cut first. But there was another part. The part that remembered my grandmother in the back bedroom, brushing my hair, telling me stories about the garden she planted at 19. The magnolias along the fence were hers. That house wasn't just my parents'. It was hers. And she'd been the only person who ever made me feel like I had a right to exist. And Julian who drew crooked houses of grandparents he barely knew. Julian who carried hope around like a lunchbox packed fresh every morning, even when it came back empty. I wasn't doing this for my mother, not for my father, and sure as hell not for Chloe. I was doing this because the house was worth saving, and because I'd never be able to explain to Julian 15 years from now that I had the power to keep his grandparents home, and I let it go because my feelings were hurt. But I wouldn't save them on their terms. If I did this, it would be on mine. I poured coffee, pulled up the county clerk's settlement number, drafted an email. By morning, I had a plan. The transaction was clean. Legal. When a borrower defaults on a personal guarantee and files a lien, the debt instrument can be settled. County clerks do it daily. They'd rather take 60 cents on the dollar now than gamble on an auction. I'd handled these for clients dozens of times. I knew the forms, the disclosures, the timeline. I contacted settlement. Identified myself as a certified risk analyst. Inquired about purchasing the defaulted lien at a negotiated payoff. After 2 rounds, we settled. I wired the funds from my savings. It wiped out most of what I'd put away over 5 years of promotions, bonuses, and skipped vacations. But it was my money, earned my way, spent with my eyes open. The assignment was recorded at the county recorder's office. As of 3 weeks before the party, I held the lien release. The default was mine to enforce or forgive. Their crisis sat in my briefcase. I want to be clear. I didn't do this to trap them. I did it because their house was going to be sold on county steps in 4 weeks, and neither had the means, credit, or pride to ask the one person who could stop it. I planned to give it to them free and clear. The retirement gift of a lifetime. The manila folder sat on my desk for 3 days before I put it in the envelope. Inside, the recorded assignment transferring the county's position to me. A lien satisfaction I'd prepared. Once signed and recorded, it would release the claim, cancel the debt, leave them with clean title. Underneath it, the original notice of foreclosure, March 18th, circled in red. 3 pieces of paper that told a story. Asterisk, your house was dying. Your daughter bought it back. Here's the release. Asterisk, I slid the folder into the envelope, checked the satisfaction one more time, unsigned. I'd sign it at the party, in front of everyone. The final flourish. March 18th. 24 days away. I closed the lid and set the envelope on the shelf. That evening I sat Julian down. Asterisk, we're bringing the most important present, sweetheart. Asterisk, he studied me with those serious brown eyes. Asterisk, more important than the earrings Chloe got grandma. Asterisk, way more. Asterisk, he retied the silk ribbon, uneven again. He tucked his card under the bow. Asterisk, now it's perfect. Asterisk, I watched him smooth the ivory paper, this tiny person who loved people who hadn't earned it yet. And I felt the full weight of what I was about to do. I almost didn't go. Mailed the documents. Skipped the party. Let the paperwork do the talking without me and my complicated face and my 7-year-old and all the history we carried just by walking through the door. If you've ever talked yourself out of standing up to your own family, I get it. It took me 28 years. Stay with me. What happened when my son handed over that envelope changed everything. I loaded the envelope into the car and drove. Chloe called the week before. Asterisk, hey, Clara Bear. Asterisk, still used the nickname from when I was 6. Asterisk, you going to dad's thing. Asterisk, I taking Julian. Asterisk, I'm actually working on something new. A consulting concept. More scalable. Asterisk, she said scalable like it was a magic word. Asterisk, that's great, Chloe. Asterisk, yeah, really coming together. Mom and dad are going to be stoked. Asterisk, she didn't ask about the house. Didn't mention the guarantee. Either she didn't know or she assumed someone else would fix it. Both tracked. 4 days before my mother called to confirm attendance. Asterisk, you said too, you and Julian, still accurate. Asterisk, yes. Asterisk, Chloe's bringing a date. I'm rearranging the seating chart. Asterisk, of course. Asterisk, I'll sit wherever. Asterisk, you always do. Asterisk, her pauses were weapons. Asterisk, I'm surprised you're coming. You've made it very clear how you feel about family gatherings. Asterisk, I bit my cheek. The Lien satisfaction sat in my briefcase 3 feet away. I was the only reason their house wasn't being sold to a stranger, and she was surprised I was coming. Asterisk, I'll be there. We're bringing something special. Asterisk, don't make it about you, Clara. This is your Father's Day. Asterisk, I wouldn't dream of it. Asterisk, she hung up. I sat in my car and stared through the windshield. Column A, reasons to give her the deed. Column B, reasons to shred it. Column A1, barely. Only because of a grandmother who died 6 years ago and a 7-year-old who still believed in matching plate parties. She had no idea she was inviting the holder of her own Lien to dinner. The venue was a rented dining hall off Route 9. White tablecloths, rented centerpieces, a piano in the corner, a hand-lettered sign, asterisk cheers to 30 years, Arthur, asterisk 40 guests, aunts, uncles, church friends, neighbors who believed Aunt Carol's gossip. The spread was extravagant. Roasted lamb, wine bottles, a 3-tier cake with fondant magnolias. I did the math instinctively. $3,000 to $4,000. Money they didn't have, borrowed or charged from an account already hemorrhaging. They were celebrating 30 years inside a party they couldn't afford in a house they were about to lose in front of people they'd lied to. I parked around back. Julian smoothed his shirt, asterisk ready. Asterisk, I held the envelope, asterisk ready. Asterisk, he straightened the silk ribbon. His card peeked out, I carried it. He held my hand. We walked in past the piano. Past 28 years of curated mythology. The hall smelled like rosemary and perfume. Someone was already on their 2nd glass of wine. Aunt Carol found us in 90 seconds. Asterisk, Clara, you actually came. Asterisk, hi, Carol. Asterisk, she looked at Julian like a health inspector. Asterisk, aren't you getting big? Eliner's going to be surprised. Asterisk, we brought a present. Asterisk, Julian said brightly. Asterisk, how thoughtful. Asterisk, she turned to the next table. Loud enough for me to hear. Asterisk, 30 years married and the quiet one finally shows up. Asterisk, I moved Julian to my other side. Reflex. My parents were at the head table. Arthur shaking hands, thinner than I remembered. Eliner arranging place cards with surgical precision. Neither looked up. I steered Julian toward Uncle Pete. Arthur's younger brother. Retired electrician. The only relative who ever treated me like family. He hugged Julian, then leaned close. Asterisk your grandma would have been proud of you, Clara, she always was. Asterisk I blinked twice. Asterisk thank you Uncle Pete. Asterisk you okay being here? Asterisk ask me in 2 hours. Asterisk Julian pointed at the cake. I let him look but kept him close. This room wasn't safe for him yet. Halfway through appetizers, I excused myself. Through the half-open kitchen door, I heard my mother's voice. Tight, controlled. Asterisk Chloe says the investor is interested, 2 more weeks. Asterisk Arthur's voice lower. Asterisk Chloe's been saying that since January. Asterisk don't start, not tonight. Asterisk Alina, the letters are. Asterisk we are not discussing the house at his retirement party. We'll figure it out. Chloe will come through. Asterisk Chloe couldn't come through a revolving door. Silence. Then my mother, steel edge intact. Asterisk at least she's trying. At least she didn't just disappear. Asterisk she meant me. Arthur again quieter. Asterisk maybe we should have. Asterisk no. We are not asking her. We are not giving her the satisfaction. Asterisk that word landed like a slap. Asterisk satisfaction. Asterisk as if saving their house would be a trophy for me, as if asking me was worse than losing everything. I stood there 30 seconds, long enough to confirm what I already knew. The house was their crisis. Chloe was their fantasy. I was their last resort, the one they'd rather drown than reach for. I went back to my seat. Julian ate a bread roll, happy as a clam. I kissed his head and set the envelope on the empty chair. After salad, Arthur stood to toast, tapped his glass. Room quieted. Asterisk 30 years with this woman and I'd do it all again. Asterisk polite applause. He talked about early years, lean times, the house on Willow Creek, family, legacy. Chloe, asterisk our daughter Chloe, took a chance on her dream. Put herself out there, already working on something new. That's the kind of woman we raised. Alina and I couldn't be prouder. Asterisk room clapped. Chloe waved. Rehearsed. Arthur's eyes swept the room. Landed on me. Moved on. Asterisk and, Clara and little Julian are here too. Good to have you. Asterisk raised his glass. Asterisk to the daughter who never gave us a day of worry. Asterisk glasses clinked. I smiled because making a scene wasn't in my nature. Julian waved. Arthur didn't notice. Chloe was the paragraph, I was the footnote. Even at a party I attended to save their house, my father couldn't spare a full sentence for me. The daughter who never gave them worry had given them a cosign, a failed LLC, and a foreclosure notice. He didn't realize the irony. I excused myself again, locked the restroom door, ran cold water over my wrists. The mirror showed a woman in a cardigan, tired eyes, good posture, an envelope waiting at the table. I stared at her. I came to give them a home. I would not also give them my self-respect. The plan hadn't changed. But something had shifted. I'd walked in hoping they might meet me halfway, hoping my father might look up, hoping my mother might say hello to her grandson, hoping someone might acknowledge I existed as more than a line item. They hadn't, they wouldn't. Not because they were evil, because the story they'd told for 28 years was load-bearing. I was the afterthought, Chloe was the investment. Changing it meant admitting the math was wrong. And neither was strong enough for that audit. Right here is where I decided I was done begging to be loved. If you're at that point with someone in your family, this next part is for you. Comment asterisk boundaries asterisk if you've had to set one. I read them all, then let's finish this together. I dried my hands, straightened my cardigan, picked up the envelope, time to give them the house. They cut the cake at 8:15. Phones came out. My mother held the knife like a scalpel. After plates were passed, I saw my opening. Asterisk Julian. Asterisk I knelt. Asterisk you remember what we talked about. Asterisk he nodded, eyes huge. He'd been holding it together all night. Asterisk you're going to carry the envelope to Grandma and Grandpa and say what we practiced. Asterisk the happy retirement thing exactly. Asterisk yes baby. Asterisk he slid off his chair. I handed him the envelope. He held it against his chest like it weighed more than physics allowed. I walked beside him. 40 pairs of eyes tracked us. Murmuring dropped. Uncle Pete set down his fork. My mother looked up. Arthur turned. Chloe glanced over. The room went quiet. I stopped 3 feet from the table and let Julian walk the last steps alone. He stopped directly in front of my mother, held out the envelope. Silk ribbon catching the lights. His card tucked neatly under the knot. Asterisk happy retirement, Grandpa. Asterisk clear, practiced, proud. Asterisk we made it just for you. Asterisk the room melted. 40 people did that collective awe. Arthur blinked. Something soft moved behind his eyes. He reached for it. My mother got there first. She looked at Julian, at the envelope, at me. I saw the calculation. The 28-year-old story running its program. Asterisk Clara is the afterthought. Clara's gifts are obligations. Asterisk her jaw tightened. She didn't reach for it, didn't open it, didn't touch the string. The room held its breath. She looked at the envelope like it might bite her. Every person watching, every neighbor, every church friend. Silence lasted 4 seconds, felt like 40. She pushed it across the table, not gently. Palm flat against ivory paper, shoved it sideways. Silk ribbons snagged on a butter knife. Julian's card slipped out, fluttered face down next to her chair. Julian's hand stayed out. Open, empty. My mother didn't look at the card, she looked at me and said it. Asterisk you've always been the quiet one, Clara, don't make this about you. Asterisk loud enough for the second row to hear, loud enough for Uncle Pete to set down his glass. 40 people heard it, some gasped. Some didn't. If you'd been in this family long enough, you'd heard some version before. Just never this public, never this raw. Never aimed at a woman standing in front of her 7-year-old son. Julian looked up at me. Lower lip trembled, locked. I didn't move, didn't speak. Watched my mother's face and saw everything I'd needed to see and been too hopeful to read. The resentment that predated me. The pregnancy that derailed her plans. 28 years of projecting her own regret onto the child who dared to exist. She wasn't angry at the gift. She was angry at me for bringing it. Acceptance meant gratitude. Gratitude meant I mattered, and I wasn't allowed to matter. Not in her math. The room was silent, heavy. Carol looked at her plate. Chloe's date looked at Chloe. Chloe looked at her phone. Arthur's chair scraped. He stood. For one held breath, I thought he'd correct her. Thought 28 years of following her might buckle. Thought he might, for once, choose me. He didn't. Asterisk take it and step back. Asterisk flat. Practiced. Like he'd rehearsed it in the shower. A fork dropped. The pastor's wife covered her mouth. Julian pressed his face into my hip, and I laughed, not performance, not revenge. The sound a person makes when the thing they've feared their whole life finally happens, and it's so much smaller than they imagined. 28 years wondering if I was enough. The answer delivered on a rented hall with 40 witnesses. No, I was not enough. Never going to be. And for the first time, standing there with roasted lamb and my son's face pressed into my cardigan, I was perfectly fine with that. My mother's composure cracked. She hadn't expected laughter. Asterisk what's so funny? Asterisk she snapped. I stopped, took a breath, looked at Arthur, at a Liener. At the envelope crooked on the table, ribbon half off, card on the floor. Asterisk do you want to know what's in the envelope? Asterisk the room leaned forward. I picked it up. Straightened the ribbon, pulled out the manila folder, held it up. Asterisk 3 weeks ago I found out this house, your house, the one on Willow Creek, has a contractor Lien. Asterisk my mother's face went white. Arthur sat heavily. Asterisk you co-signed a $128,000 guarantee 10 months ago, funded Chloe's LLC. Asterisk I looked at Chloe. Her date looked at her. 40 people looked at her. She stared at the tablecloth. Asterisk business failed. Money's gone. Missed 2 payments. County filed the lien in January. Auction scheduled March 18th. Asterisk I held up the folder. Asterisk 24 days from tonight. Asterisk no one moved. Asterisk 3 weeks ago I settled the lien with the county, negotiated, paid it off with my savings. Every dollar I've earned in 5 years of working nights, weekends, skipping vacations, while you told Carol I was the daughter who abandoned you. Asterisk my mother opened her mouth. Nothing came out. I set the folder on the table. Asterisk this contains the recorded assignment of the lien to me, and a satisfaction of claim. Once I sign and record it, the house is yours. Free and clear, no auction, no foreclosure, it was your retirement gift. Asterisk I let it sit. Asterisk my 7-year-old carried it across this hall for you, and you shoved it off the table, and told me not to make it about me. Asterisk I left the sentence in the air. Didn't raise my voice, didn't cry, didn't look away, stood there with my son against my hip. Let 40 people do the math. Carol turned pale, the pastor's wife covered her face. Uncle Pete nodded slowly. My mother gripped the table. Asterisk Clara you can't just. Asterisk I can. Asterisk I said quietly. Asterisk I hold the release. Your house, your debt, my decision. Asterisk I slid the folder back into the envelope, closed it. The satisfaction stayed unsigned. Folded it into my pocket. Bent down, picked up Julian's card. Smudged, but the house was still there. Tucked it into my jacket, picked up my son. He wrapped his arms around my neck, didn't cry, just held on. The way kids hold on when adults fail, and the only safe thing in the room is the person carrying them. Asterisk Clara. Asterisk Arthur's voice broke. Asterisk wait. Asterisk I didn't. Asterisk please. Asterisk my mother stood, chair hit the wall. Asterisk you can't just that's our house. Asterisk I turned at the door, 40 faces, stunned, relieved, crying. Chloe had her head in her hands. Asterisk it was your gift. Asterisk I said. Asterisk would have been signed tonight, you chose differently. Asterisk I walked out, parking lot dark, quiet, Julian's breath warm against my neck. Asterisk mom. Asterisk he whispered. Asterisk yeah baby. Asterisk is grandma going to be okay? Asterisk buckled him in, smoothed his hair. Asterisk grandma's going to have to figure some things out. Asterisk set the envelope on the passenger seat. Ribbon creased, half untied, wrecked from being pushed, started the engine, drove home, neither looked back. Calls began at 10:47 p.m. My mother's voicemail, crying but structured. Still drafting the narrative. Asterisk you humiliated us. In front of the church, you had no right, I didn't mean it that way, you always twist everything. Asterisk not a sorry, just a complaint about the audience. Arthur's at 6:15 a.m. Anger first. Then the crack. Asterisk hell of a stunt, Clara, we were wrong. Okay, we were wrong. Please come back, we need to talk about the house. Asterisk 5 words. Asterisk talk about the house. Asterisk not Julian, not me, the asset. Chloe called twice. First time hung up. Second, asterisk fix this, Clara. Asterisk like I was tech support for a family she'd bankrupted. Over 5 days, 9 calls from my mother, 7 from Arthur, 2 from Chloe, 1 from my aunt I deleted, 3 texts from cousins. Asterisk heard what happened. You okay? Asterisk 2 neighbors reached out. Mrs. Delgado said she'd always thought I was the strong one, sorry no one said it sooner. The story they'd built for 28 years collapsed on a rented hall. Rubble everywhere. I didn't answer, not yet, not as punishment, as preparation. They needed to sit in the quiet long enough to realize the house wasn't the problem. The silence was, I had something to offer but this time with terms. Boundaries, not ultimatums. Day 6 I called Arthur, just him. Asterisk I'm not making you homeless, never the plan, not who I am. Asterisk quiet. Then, asterisk what do you want? Asterisk respect. For me, for Julian, in writing. Asterisk I'd drafted the documents, clean, simple, I'd sign the satisfaction, release the lien, cancel the debt. In exchange they'd place the house in a revocable living trust. Life estate for them. Julian as sole remainder beneficiary, Chloe's name nowhere in it. No co-signing, no verbal promises. Just a recorded deed, notarized trust amendment. Acknowledgement letter, not punishment, alignment. If they wanted security, they'd acknowledge who provided it. Arthur agreed in 30 seconds. Math finally caught up. My mother took 2 days. When she called, her voice was smaller. No performance. Asterisk I was afraid of you, Clara. Afraid you'd turn out to be everything I wasn't. And you did. And I couldn't stand it. Asterisk 28 years terrified of being outshone by the daughter she swore she never wanted. Not an apology, not redemption. A woman at the edge of her own damage, finally describing what she saw. I didn't forgive her on the spot, but I heard her, hearing her was enough. We met at a notary's office on Tuesday. Fluorescent lights, scratch of pens, her hand trembled signing. Arthur's steady, I signed last. Clerk stamped them, recorded that afternoon. By 4 Lien released. Default void. 412 Willow Creek Lane theirs again. Clean title. No strangers in my grandmother's garden. I drove past that evening. Magnolias still blooming, heavy, white. Stubborn, didn't stop, didn't need to. Julian's card, framed, hung in our hallway at eye level. Kids' drawings don't belong in trash. They belong where they can be seen. I stopped waiting for my mother to call me anything but an afterthought the day I realized my worth was never hers to hand back. You don't get to define someone else's value just because they stayed in the room while you kept changing the score. This isn't about revenge. Revenge is loud, reactive, leaves you exhausted. What happened in that hall was about boundaries. Choosing yourself before you break, holding up people who refuse to lift their own weight. Realizing love you have to audition for isn't love. It's a transaction. And you get to walk away from bad deals. If you've ever been the family scapegoat, the quiet one, the one who held everything together while others took credit for your stability, this is for you. You are not the mistake, you are the correction. Walking away with your dignity intact is the most powerful justice there is. Welcome to Little Bunny. We tell quiet stories about family, betrayal, and the steady strength it takes to choose yourself. If this resonated, leave your thoughts below. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And remember, You never need permission to stop begging for a seat at a table that was never set for you.